All of these buildings may just seem like they're ordinary buildings that people go in and out of every day. But behind the scenes, in some of these buildings, systematic racism is happening, and we may never even see it. Systematic racism, also known as institutional racism, is a form of racism that is embedded in the laws and regulations of a society or organization. It manifests as discrimination in areas such as criminal justice, employment, housing, health, care, education, and political.
Hello, my name is Justin Foster.
Hi, my name is Matt Karstens, and I am a small business owner.
I do. Systematic racism is also known as institutional racism, which is ingrained in our culture and society. It's been passed on from generation to generation, and it's prevalent in a lot of different laws and policies that are set up for people of color.
Systemic racism can also, I think, be called institutional racism. It's racism that exists in laws and in business practices and norms where biases and prejudices are prolonged.
I have experienced systematic racism as a corporate manager. I learned that as I got up higher in the corporate ranks, that systematic racism was much easier to spot. There was a situation in which, as a corporate manager for for a large billion-dollar corporation, it wasn't hard to see that there were 77 managers and only 3 minority managers. And out of the 3 minority managers, I was the only male minority manager. It did bother me, even though I feel like I'm good at what I do. I didn't think I was that good that no one else should get an opportunity. And it's something that I've seen play out not just in the corporate environment, but back in my own workplace. So I have experienced it firsthand.
When I was younger, I noticed, certainly, that there was a divide. I mean, essentially very few or no black people that lived in that town, but didn't know why. I just thought it was the way it was. Of course, there was a reason. The reason, as I have come to understand it, is because of a number of factors, redlining being one of them, where mortgages were more difficult to get for people who happened to be, the way it was designed, applied unevenly to African American people. The same would go for insurance practices, where insurance would be more expensive or unavailable. Not specifically for African Americans, but for, as applied, would make obtaining a mortgage or insurance more difficult for African American people. So, have I seen it? Yes, I experienced it growing up, and it pervades, and it's pervaded throughout my life. You see it in schools. I went to the University of Michigan, and but certainly not to single out Michigan, but there were people who had privilege who were white, and going to university was, there was an easier path to, one, gain admission, and 2, to afford it. And I'm not saying that the University of Michigan practiced systemic racism. That's more of a indictment of the educational system in the United States. In many places in the United States, I can't speak for every place, but most places base their education funding on property value. There's less money to fund schooling. That has a disparate impact on African Americans, people that live in the city, which happens in Detroit. Obviously, Detroit is majority African American. It happens in other cities, Baltimore, Washington, D.C. That system where education is funded that way, whether it's specifically for a racist purpose, has a racist effect, has a disparate impact on race.
Ever low unemployment rates should not obscure the fact that African Americans systematically suffer higher unemployment rates than whites, even in a good labor market. The unemployment rate for black workers remained higher than that for the white workers, even when looking at subpopulations, according to the American Press.